This is the activity on types of angles. The objective of this activity is to identify and to classify various given angles based on some measurements, and we will try to explore the properties of these angles. Let's first understand the concept of different types of angles. As we know, an angle is formed by two rays. So we can draw the two rays in so many different forms. Like we have this initial point O, and we can draw a ray like this and represent it by OA. Another ray can be overlapping. So we can have another ray which lies exactly over OA, and let's call it OB. So when two rays overlap each other, the angle between them is known as the zero angle. Likewise, if the initial point is O and we draw a ray like this OA, and we have another ray OB which makes an angle less than 90 degree. So what is the angle here? It is less than 90 degree. Then the angle between these two rays is known as an acute angle. Similarly, the third angle can be when we have the vertex O, the ray OA, and it makes exactly a 90-degree angle with OB. So if this angle AOB is 90 degree, then we call it as a right angle. The fourth angle in this series is when the ray OA and the ray OB are forming an angle which is more than 90 degree like this, but the angle is less than 180 degree. So what is the measure? The measure of the angle is between 90 degree and 180 degree. Such angles are known as obtuse angles. What happens if the angle becomes exactly 180 degree? Let's draw another figure to illustrate that. This is O, this is A, and now the ray OB will lie exactly opposite to ray OA, and so this angle will be 180 degree angle, and it is known as a straight angle or a straight line angle. If the angle increases beyond 180 degree, so suppose you have the ray OA again and OB is like this angle which is more than 180 but less than 360 degree, that is between 180 degree and 360 degree, this is known as a reflex angle. And finally, if the ray OA and the ray OB both are exactly the same, this angle which is formed is known as a complete angle. So based on the figures given to us, we will be identifying in this activity whether the angle is a zero angle, an acute angle, a right angle, an obtuse angle, a straight angle, reflex angle, or a complete angle. The material required to conduct this activity include a protractor for measuring the angles, ruler, pencil, paper with pre-drawn angles. So we will have a sheet on which all these angles are already drawn, and then blank paper for drawing various angles. Let's see how we can conduct this activity. So in this activity on types of angles, you can see the observation table. We have some angles, 5 angles here. We have to measure those angles and label them as a particular type of angle. And we need to give at least one real life example which we see all around us related to that particular angle. Now for this activity, first of all, we should know what are the various types of angles. For this, you have to draw all these types of angles in the practical notebook. You can see any line that makes an angle with itself, that means they are coinciding, they are overlapping, it is called a zero angle. and any angle which resembles this shape is an acute angle. This is practically less than 90 degree. If it becomes 90 degree, then it is called a right angle. More than 90 degree and less than 180 degree is obtuse. A straight angle is the one with an angle of 180 degree, and then more than 180 becomes reflex, and when it completes one full rotation, then it becomes a complete angle. So these are the types of angles. So that students are required to draw any 5 random angles and then make some measurements. Like suppose you have an object like this, and we want to find out what angle is this making. So you can see here, this particular angle looks like an acute angle here, but we need to verify that using measurement. And for measurement, what we need to do is to pick up the protractor and actually measure this angle. So you should be knowing how to use a protractor. For me, this angle looks like a 70 degree angle. So you can write the first object, the measured angle was 70 degree, and this angle is categorized as an acute angle, as you can see here. And to label the different real life examples, you can quote so many different examples, like the example of a star. You can see here the vertex of a star. All these angles at the vertex, they are all acute angles. So I am not mentioning it here. I am just giving you some examples. You can write them as per your availability of the objects, right? Now, another different type of angle which can be given is like this. You can see the center here, and this forms a complete circle. So the angle measurement in this case is going to be 360 degree, and that is called a complete angle. And where do you find complete angles? You find the complete angles in objects like this. They are called circular discs. We use them so many times in our daily routine. Likewise, we can have a box, like here I have a box containing a mouse. And what type of angles can be studied using a box? If you see the length of the box and the width of the box, they form an angle of 90 degree, and that means it is a right angle. So what are the real life examples? The length and width of any rectangular or square object, they form a right angle. So right angles are everywhere. You can write as many examples as you want. Likewise, if you open a scissor, here you can see I have opened the scissor, and the angle so formed here, it resembles an obtuse angle. So you have to use the protractor again and measure this angle, and you will find that this angle is nearly 140 degree in my case. So you will write 140 degree here, and you will write it as an obtuse angle, and you can write the example as an opened scissor, or you may find so many different examples around you. Likewise, we have the examples of the reflex angles, which is the angle which is other than the acute angle. So if you see this angle is acute, then the other part of this part is the reflex angle. So we can sort out some of the objects based on reflex angles. And that completes our activity on the types of angles.